Apostle Paul D. Young, here again with another installment of Shepherd's Staff. Now, Shepherd's Staff, if you're new to it, is designed and targeted towards pastors and church leaders. Now, if you're not a pastor or church leader, you can listen. Help yourself. But that is who I'm mainly talking to and trying to help. So, in all my years of ministry, I have learned some things about how to avoid frustration. A lot of pastors get frustrated, and the frustration is not so much having to do with preaching, teaching the word, studying the word. No, the frustration comes in dealing with people. Oh boy, that's the area where there's the most problems. And, over the years, I have discovered that oftentimes the people that I have to spend the most time with and have the most problems are the ones that are the quickest to jet and leave, exit stage right when there's a problem. I'm going, wow, after all that time I put into them. That's frustrating. So I want to help you with this. In Proverbs chapter 3, verse 27, it says, "Withhold not good from them to whom it is due, when it is in the power of thy hand to do it." Now, a lot of people want to focus in on when it is in the power of your hand to do it. If you have the ability to do something, then you need to do it. But wait. What does it say? It says, "Withhold not good from them to whom it is due." It is due. The word due is very important because some people think that just because there is a need, then if they bring me a need, then it's my responsibility or your responsibility to meet that need. A homeless person asks for change, asks for help, and a lot of people feel obligated to give it to them. But wait a minute. What does this word due mean? You look it up. The word due means it belongs to or is owed to them. It means that the person to whom it is due is qualified for that. For example, when payday comes, if you work a regular job and you have an employer, payday comes, you hold out your hand for a check. Why? Because it's due you. You worked all week or the 2 weeks or whatever the time frame was. No work, no check. Why? It's not due you. You have an expectancy because you are qualified and your boss has the power to make it good. See, I want to talk to you in the next number of sessions. I want to talk to you about why some people cannot be helped. Sounds like a negative title, but really it's not. The reason why I want to share this with you, because I want to help you minister effectively to others. For number one. Number two, I don't want you wasting time on those that ultimately cannot be helped, because there are those. And I'm going to line it out for you over these next several sessions, and you'll understand as we go. And so this is very important. And thirdly, make sure you're not one of those that can't be helped, even though you're a pastor. Just because you're a pastor doesn't mean you got all your act together. So make sure you don't fit in any of these categories that we're going to talk about. The truth is, you are not obligated to meet the needs of everybody. Only those who are qualified. See, you're not qualified to have your need met when you keep creating the need. And the devil and some people want you to feel obligated. I've had people come in. Well, you're a Christian. You need to take care of this for me. You need to do this. And when I tell them, no, we're not doing that. And you call yourself a Christian? Yep, I sure do. And the problem is, they want me to feel obligated to do something, to meet their needs, to give them money, whatever. And even there's Christians that believe this. They believe that you are obligated to meet somebody's need. And I say, give me chapter and verse for that. And somebody says, well, Jesus fed the multitude. Yeah, but they'd been with him for 3 days. And he didn't want them passing out from hunger on the way home. Most of the people around here, anyway, that come and want food or money, they won't even come for one service. They won't even sit through an entire service before they make their request. I've had them come in, sit in the back, and they either they leave before it's done, or they they don't show up until they know it's right towards the end of the service. And then they come up and, oh yeah, I want some help. And, oh, wait a minute. We must understand that God has given us responsibility. We're responsible for something. Now, let me point to the prodigal son, because everybody knows that story. And in the prodigal son went and blew all his money, ended up in the pig pen, feeding the hogs, was wanting to eat the slop that he was feeding the hogs. Now, the father of the prodigal son never ran after him to get him out of the pig pen, never pursued him. Why? Because something had to change in the son before he could be helped. And in Luke 15:18, the son said, even my servants in my father's house have better than this. And it says, I will arise and go to my father and say, basically, I was wrong. I've been wrong. See, he had to say within himself that something had to change in him before he was qualified to go back to his father. That's why I believe his father never came after him. He was waiting for him to take the steps to come home. He was disqualified for help until he made some changes in what he believed and what he thought. It wouldn't have done his father any good to help him in the pig pen, because he still was thinking the same way. The son had to be willing to change his thinking and his doing. The first thing in being able to help people is they've got to be qualified for the help. And not everyone is qualified. A lot of people use others to help them live what I call a self-defeating lifestyle, to keep on the drugs, to keep on the alcohol, to keep on whatever it is. I've seen people 30, 40, 50 years old lying through their teeth to try to get money or help to support their habit. They are that old and they have nothing to show for it. And if you give them money, if you give them the help they're asking for, you're only enabling them to go on in the same vein, the same path, the same mess that they've been on for years. They're not qualified. But if you're not careful, they'll suck the life out of you. There's an old saying about drilling a hole at the bottom of the rain barrel. Back in the pioneer days, they would put a barrel that would catch rainwater, and they would use that for washing and whatever else. But then there was an overflow, and you help people out of your overflow. But there are some people that come along and they see you have a supply, and if you let them, they'll drill a hole at the bottom of the barrel, and they'll keep draining and draining until the whole thing's dry. As soon as it's dry and you don't help them anymore, they'll move on to another rain barrel, see if they can drill a hole in that one. See, we gotta be smart, and we gotta be scriptural about ministry. We gotta be smart enough to know some people, you're not going to be able to help them. And if you're not going to be able to help them, why spend all that time, effort, money, everything else to do it. You'd be better to spend that time, that money on people you actually can help. See, whenever we're spending time helping people that are not going to change, we're not spending the time helping those who really want to change. In Ephesians 5, it talks about redeeming the time because the days are evil. And I believe this is one way that we can do that, is understanding who we can help and who we can't. So the first area that I want to lay out for you is you cannot help someone who refuses to disconnect from the wrong people. You cannot help someone who refuses to disconnect from wrong people. 1 Corinthians chapter 15 and verse 33 says, "Be not deceived. Evil communications corrupt good manners." The Amplified reads this way: Do not be so deceived and misled. Evil companionships, communion, and associations corrupt and deprave good manners and morals and character. Hey, who you hang around with is either going to empower your life or is going to weaken your life. Who you going to hang with? Oftentimes, I've had parents, come to me about a teenager that's struggling and, kind of going downhill and not going after God. And the first question I want to ask them is, who are his friends or her friends? Who they hanging with? Next question I'm going to ask is, are they willing to stop being with those friends? Because if you have a young person, it applies to an adult as well, but if you have a young person that's hanging out with the wrong friends and they're going downhill, I can guarantee you the reason they're going downhill is because of those friends. Those friends are going that way too, and they're going with them. And if you're not willing to separate from the people that are dragging you down, yet you want to come in, you want to get counseling, you want me to talk to them, wait a minute. No, I'm going to be wasting my time if they're not willing to separate from the wrong people. Like I said, whoever you stay connected with is either going to empower your life with the life of God, or they're going to weaken your life by drawing you away from God. Joshua, in the Bible, Joshua was empowered by his relationship with Moses. But then you go a little further on, you find this guy named Samson. He was weakened by his friendship and hanging out with this gal named Delilah. And ultimately it was his undoing. We got to ask the question, who are the friends of the one that I'm trying to help? See, sometimes we talk with them and we try to zero in on the problem, but we forget about this area of who they're hanging with, because it's going to make a difference, a big difference. Where are they going? Where are these friends of theirs going? What are they doing? You going to follow them? When the blind lead the blind, Jesus said, they both fall into a ditch. And if you hang out with spiritually blind friends, they're going to fall in the ditch. And if you are with them, you're going in the ditch too. That's why you have to break some relationships sometimes, because they're not good. Well, I want to win them to Jesus. Well, did you share Jesus with them? Did you share that you made Jesus Lord of your life? Did you share with them that I'm not doing that anymore? Because if you did and they didn't listen to that, then it's time to break it. Cut it off. Because if they don't want to follow you in following God, then they're going to try to drag you down. See, there's this thing about people. When they see someone make a decision that changes their life, but they don't want to change, then what they're going to do is they're going to try to drag you back down to their level. Because as long as you're their level, they're not convicted because you're just like them. The minute you step higher, then they need to either admit you're higher and they need to go higher, and they may need to change. But a lot of times people don't want to change. They like it just like it is. And so because I don't want to change, I'm not going to do what you did. So now I got to make you come down to my level so I don't feel bad about where I'm at. All right. Now, God and you cannot help somebody when they won't disconnect from the wrong people. Proverbs 14:7 says, "Go from the presence of a foolish man." Who's a foolish man or woman? I'll tell you who, because the Bible explains this for us. It says, "The fool has said in his heart, there is no God." Well, that applies to life. The foolish say, I don't have to do it God's way. I don't need God to tell me what to do. I don't have to do what the word says. No. Oh, I love God, but I don't want to do that. I want to go to church. Well, then you don't love God. It's very simple. If you love God, you do what God says. If you don't love God, you don't do what God says. It's cut and dried. I've had people tell me, oh, I love the Lord. Oh, but you won't do what he says? Well, now I have a problem with that. No, you don't love God. Ooh. All right. Now, in Hosea chapter 4, there's an interesting story here. Israel had turned away from God. So God used Hosea as an example to show them what they were doing and why it was wrong. So he tells Hosea to go and marry a prostitute. I'm glad I'm not in the Old Testament. But so Hosea does what God said. He went and married this prostitute, took her in, took care of her, fed her, clothed her, made her life good. And it wasn't very long until he comes home one day and she's gone. Where's my wife at? And he goes and he finds she is right back out on the street being a prostitute again. And he would take her and bring her home, clean her up, fix her up, she's abused. And before too long, she goes back out again. And he's going, what in the world? And God says, Israel, I'm going to teach you an object lesson. And in Hosea chapter 4, verses 1 and 2, it says, "Hear the word of the Lord, ye children of Israel, for the Lord has a controversy with the inhabitants of the land, because there is no truth, nor mercy, nor knowledge of God in the land. By swearing and lying and killing and stealing and committing adultery, they break out, and blood touches blood." Now, when it says they break out, that means there's no restraint. No matter what God tried to do to help them, they ignored it. No, I don't have to serve you. I don't want to serve you. They were rebellious. And if we go down to verse 6, now you'll recognize this verse. Verse 6 says, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Because thou hast rejected knowledge, I will also reject thee, that thou shalt be no priest to me. Seeing thou hast forgotten the law of thy God, I will also forget thy children." Hosea would tell them what they needed to do. And they would say, we don't want to hear it. We're going to do it our way. Until they got in trouble. When they got in trouble, then they wanted deliverance. Then we need God. See, when there's no way out, people want to cry out to God. They want to come to me, come to you. Oh, I need help. But the problem is they want to stay connected to the mess of their life, the wrong friends of their life, the wrong people. See, if someone pulls you out of your mess, but you still have the same information, you still have the same way of thinking in your head, in your heart, you know what it's going to do? It's going to lead you right back into the same mess. In fact, his Proverbs 26:11 puts it this way: as a dog returns to his vomit, so a fool returns to his folly. It's hard to watch. It's hard to see people do this, knowing what I know and knowing they can be free, but they don't want to listen and they want to be with their friends. 2 Peter 2:22 says, you can clean up the pig, you can put a bow on its head, you can put perfume on it, you can let it sleep in your easy chair. I know that's not Second Peter 2:22, but it's the idea. You can bring it in the house. You can make it a pet. Oh, I got a pig pet. But you know what? That cleaned up pig that smells nice, as soon as it gets a chance to get out the door, it's going to be right back in the mud, rooting around doing what pigs do. You see, why is that? Because just changing the outward circumstances will not change you. I'm going to say that again. Just changing the outward circumstances is not going to change a person. That's what's wrong with our social problems in America. That's what's wrong with our welfare and all these programs there. I mean, we got this homeless problem here in Oregon. Of course, I think you probably got it wherever you're at too. It's a mess. And they say, oh, what we need to do is we need more housing, more housing. The housing's not going to fix it. And every place that they've turned into a homeless place is disaster. What's the problem? The problem is there hasn't been a change in the heart and in the mind. They're still thinking the same way. People always want to work from the outside in. It doesn't work that way. That's why we got to bring them to Jesus. That's why they need to be delivered. That's why they need to be set free. You got to deal with the root of the problem. I believe the statistics are here 75 or 80% of our homelessness is due to drugs and alcohol, mostly drugs. I know on the property here, we had to clean up an area back in the back where there was tall grass. There was somebody told us there was some homeless people camping back there. So we brought in a mower on a tractor and had it mow it all down. I went back there afterwards. It's land we don't use. It's out back behind here. And in a less than a 4-foot circle, about a 3-foot circle, I think I counted about 60 or 80, maybe it was more than that, it's a while back, needles in one spot right there. Just, I mean, you almost couldn't see the ground because there were so many needles. What's the problem? There's a drug problem. People need to be set free. If they're not set free, I don't care how much you house them, how much money you give them, how many times you feed them. If there isn't a change on the inside, they're going to be the same. They're going right back to it. They're like the pig going back to the mud, like the dog going back to the vomit. The external environment was facilitated by the internal thoughts. That's why it's a mess. That's why they're willing to live like that. And you cannot stay connected to the wrong people and expect to get right results. And as pastors, we got to understand this into people that come to us. Now, I want to help people. I can help people, but I can only help those who are qualified. And this first qualification is a big one. If they're not willing to change who their friends are, who they hang with, who they talk with all the time. I'm not saying that we have to be totally isolated from everybody, but it's who do you spend quality time with? If we're not going to change that, you're not going to get the results that you want to get. You're going to be frustrated because they're just going to keep coming back and keep trying to drain your barrel dry. You cannot, I can't overemphasize this, you cannot stay connected to wrong people and expect right results. The alcoholic can come in and get delivered in an instant. But if he goes back and hangs out at the bar, I can tell you what's going to happen. First, it's going to be, well, I'm only drinking a Coke. And then before too long, it's going to be Coke and then a beer. And then the beer is going to lead to Jack Daniels, and he's going to be right back in the mud where he was when he started. Why? You got to move yourself away from the thing that held you in bondage. It's one thing to get free, but then we got to stay free. And we've got to teach people this, and we got to explain it. And if people are not willing to change, they got to get it inside. They have to say within themselves, I will arise, and I'm going to leave this pig pen. I had a young man that came to me a number of years ago. He wasn't part of our church. He came in crying and boo-hooing about his wife kicked him out, had a restraining order, and it was terrible. And I said, well, your wife's not here. I can't do anything about her. I can do something with you. And he kind of perked up. I said, listen, are you born again? He said he was. Said they went to a church in California, and then they moved up here and hadn't been going to church. And no wonder their life's going downhill. You cut God out of your life, things are going to go downhill. So I said, tell me something. Can you read your Bible for 5 minutes a day? He said, yeah. I said, can you pray for 5 minutes a day? Second thing. Yeah, I can do that. Can you come to church on a regular basis? Yeah, I can do that. I said, if you'll do those three things, start doing those, your life's going to turn around. Well, he went out, and the next Sunday, him and his wife were in church. I said, praise God. That's good. And they came for about, a month and a half. Then they disappeared. Didn't know where they went. Didn't have a phone number. Didn't hear from them until about 2 years later. One afternoon, here come this same young man knocking on my office door, crying and boohooing. My wife kicked me out. Got a restraining order. I can't go home. It's terrible. I can't even get a shower. It was same song, second verse. He was standing in the door of my office. And I said to him, I said, son, listen. I said, have you been reading your Bible 5 minutes a day? He was all crying. No. I said, have you been praying 5 minutes a day? No. I said, have you been going to church on a regular basis? No. I said, well, then turn around and go out. He stopped crying. He looked at me. He said, you mean you're not going to help me? I said, listen, if you are not willing to do what I told you the first time, why should I spend my time giving you more instructions that you're not going to follow them either? As soon as you're willing to change, I'll help you. But if you're not willing to follow instructions, I can't help you. And off he went. He's looking for a handout, but he got an answer he didn't really expect to get. Now, in Hosea 4 and verse 17, it says, we're talking about the people of Israel, that they didn't want to listen. Look at Hosea 4:17. Ephraim is joined to idols. Let him alone. God said, you know what? They want to be there. They want to be that way. They don't want to listen to what I got to say. Leave them alone. See, same thing with the prodigal son. Same thing with a lot of people that come to us. If they don't want to disconnect from wrong people, there's not much you can do to help them. So don't waste your time trying. I'm trying to help you, Pastor. I'm trying to help you. Prioritize your time with those who do want to be helped, who will make the changes, who have come to themselves and said, I'm making the change. I'm going to do what Pastor says. And those people, they're the ones that'll be changed, who receive the word, obey the word, and follow it. See, when there's weakness in your life, I tell people, check your connections. Who's weakening you? And I ask people to come in and want help. You got weakness. who you've been hanging with. Very, very important. Hey, it's been good to be with you in this edition of Shepherd's Staff. We're just trying to help you, trying to encourage you, trying to make ministry easier for you, if I can put it that way. Just want to help you. Praise God, praying for you. And if you have questions or topics you'd like me to address here on Shepherd's Staff, there's the address down there at the bottom, info@wolife.org. Send us an email. Any comments you got, we're glad to hear from you. I just want you to be blessed. I want you to be strong. I want you strong in the Lord and the power of his might. And I believe God's going to help you do that. And I'll see you next time right here on Shepherd's Staff.